This brings us to the final award of the evening, introduced in 1992. It is with great pride that I announce the Qimpro Platinum Standard 2017 for Business, an icon who needs no introduction, Mr. Nandan Nilekani.
Wow. Nandan Nilekani, a role model Indian entrepreneur. His achievements are largely traceable to an extraordinary proficiency in the complex science and art of risk management, particularly for mega projects. Mr. Nilekani believes in good governance. He walks his talk. His multiple achievements do justice to this belief. He also firmly believes that the world is flat. In 1978, Mr. Narayana Murthy recruited Mr. Nilekani for his first job at Patni Computer Systems, Mumbai. Thereafter, 1981, he, along with Mr. Murthy and 5 others, founded Infosys in Pune, not Bangalore, with an initial capital of US dollars 250. Extreme risk, a risk that has been generously rewarded several times over. For over 2 decades at Infosys, Bangalore, or Bengaluru, as we should say it politically right, Mr. Nilekani held various posts such as Managing Director, President, and Chief Operating Officer. During his 5 years, 10 years Chief Operating Officer, from 2002 to 2007, Infosys' top line grew 6-fold to US dollars, hold your breath, 3 billion. His focus, a collective fine balance that glued process management, customer focus, employee focus, quality, and innovation. Mr. Nilekani is blessed with risk management in his soul. For the subsequent 2 years, Mr. Nilekani served as the co-chairman of the board of directors at Infosys, and with distinction. In 2009, Mr. Nilekani retired from Infosys to satisfy a larger mission, giving back to society. As a result, he invested his talent, time, and wealth for a better India, most specifically for the betterment of society and the environment. In the same year, he also published a bestseller, Imagining India, the idea of renewed nations. The wisdom contained in the book is that of a visionary. Concurrently, in 2009, Mr. Nilekani was appointed as the chairman of the Unique Identification Authority of India. This was a cabinet ranking position. He was personally invited by the Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. The mandate from the Prime Minister was build a centralized, reliable, and secure repository of personal, demographic, and biometric data for the total population of India. And the unique identification number for each citizen should be known as Aadhaar. A gigantic systems assignment. Now, a global benchmark. Ladies and gentlemen, let's stand up and give him a standing ovation for this truly global standard. We're honored to have you here today. Effective 2017, Mr. Nilekani is the non-executive chairman of Infosys to facilitate disruptive growth through well-crafted risk management. Padma Bhushan Nandan Nilekani, inspiring Indians, making India proud. We salute you, Mr. Nandan Nilekani, our Qimpro Platinum Standard 2017 for Business.
May I request Dr. Baba Kalyani, our Qimpro Platinum Standard 2016, and Dr. K.K. Noria to do the honors. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a great honor and privilege for me to be here today to receive this award from the Qimpro Foundation. I've been observing for the last 3 decades the activities of Suresh and the Qimpro organization and the foundation, and I think they really set a beacon for quality in India. So I'm really grateful and privileged that the jury has selected me for this award, and I'm very happy to be here with such distinguished fellow awardees. I've really had a very lucky experience because I had a chance to work and create a global company, which I just went back to 2 months back as a chairman, and also to do something in the government on a large scale. So it's rare that you get a chance to do both, and I'm very, very fortunate that I did get that. And for me, at Infosys, when I did my first round and now I'm back, I think our vision collectively was to build a great company, a company of professionals, a company which would become a global benchmark in governance, in quality, and it's really a privilege for me to be back there as the chairman of the company. At the same time, I was also invited, as they said, by the Prime Minister to work on this project, Aadhaar. And when I joined, it was essentially a project which was approved by the government, but that's all it was. It was a cabinet-approved project, and I was employee number 1 of this project. So I was, in some sense, doing a startup inside the government. And I was very, very fortunate. And the one thing I learned at Infosys, and again doing Aadhaar, was that if you really have great people who are passionate, who are inspired, who want to do big things, anything is possible. And I was very lucky that I was able to assemble a really fine set of people to make this project happen. And what was unique about this team that we assembled was that on the one hand, I had great and experienced bureaucrats who had worked 3 decades or more in the government and were very familiar with how government works. At the same time, had a passion to do something different. And I was able to attract fine technologists who had worked all over the world, in Silicon Valley, in India, who understood how great technology works. And these were 2 very different sets of people, people who had worked in the government for decades and people who had worked in the private sector. And the challenge that we had was, how do we bring together people from 2 dissimilar cultures and unite them to do the same, to do one thing. And what we learned, and which I believe really applies to anything which you want to do at scale, is if you have a big vision, if you have an audacious vision, and the vision is compelling enough for everyone, then people are willing to subjugate their egos and their personal differences to work for a larger cause. So I think because we set this ambitious goal of giving 1 billion people an ID, it was such a big task that nobody had time to have any differences, and we all worked together as a team, no matter what was our backgrounds. And I also realized that it's very important when you do these kind of large tasks that you must have a very accelerated schedule, because I think again speed is of the essence, because unless you show results at scale and speed, and you're doing this kind of thing, you don't have the momentum to take it forward. So we set very ambitious goals for ourselves. We said we would cover 600 million people within the term of the government. It was a 5-year term. And I took charge in July 2009, just a couple of months after the new government came. And so we worked very hard and built one of the world's largest technology platforms. It was a project that was very difficult technologically because nobody had actually done this, which was how do you make sure that 1 billion people have a unique number? And this was, nobody had solved this problem anyway. And we decided to do what's called a biometric deduplication. They're the only sure way we could make sure that somebody didn't have two numbers. And till then, the largest project of that size was about 100 million people deduplication for the US travel system. We had to do it for a size of 10 times that, 10x of 1 billion people. And many people said this is impossible to do, but we had some really great people who figured out how we could do it. And just to give you a sense of the complexity of this, if we have 500 million people in our database and 1 million new people get enrolled that day, then it needs 500 trillion computer matches to figure out who's a duplicate and who is not. So it's a very massively complex processing challenge. But we were able to do it because we had some fantastic people who could do it. But the equally difficult challenge for our team was how to get it to work in our complex political system. And so it required, for example, going everywhere. I went to every state of India. I met the chief minister, I met the chief secretaries, I explained what is coming. Basically, we evangelized and got a buy-in from everybody. I went to every bank, every regulator, every fertilizer company, every insurance company, every ministry. So we reached out to everyone to make sure that they all bought into this idea. And because we reached out and built this climate of coalition among all the players, that we were actually able to get everyone to work on this project. And so we reached about 600 million people when I stepped down. And then the new government came. And in between, for some time, there was this worry that what will happen to this project. But I did meet Prime Minister Modi, and he's very technologically savvy, and he fully understood the power of this platform. So he has become the biggest supporter today. So just to give you a sense of the scale of what's been accomplished, Aadhaar has 1.18 billion people today on it. We have about 550 million people whose bank accounts have been linked to the Aadhaar number for direct benefit transfer. India runs the world's largest cash transfer program. It's done 2 billion transactions. About 75,000 crores has been transferred into individual bank accounts using this seamless electronic method. The total project cost was $1.5 billion, about 9,000 crores. And the total government savings so far are 56,000 crores in removing. Essentially, what happened was by having a unique ID, you removed fakes and duplicates from all our databases. So it reduced corruption and waste. So it got a very high return on investment. And then it's done a lot of other things. You can open an account in 2 minutes and all kinds of things. And so it's really built as a platform. But what I learned from this is that you can, if you really put your mind to it, even in all the complex situation we are in, and in spite of the odds that we have, if you're really focused, if you have a big vision, if you have a great team, if you have political air cover, and you can really make things happen. And that's the learning for me. And I also learned that it's not that you can have speed and you can have scale. You can have scale and you can have quality. You can have better quality and we can have lower cost. So it's not that these things are opposite. It's really about working on getting all the parameters together. And that was a big lesson for me. And so I think that's something which I take back to Infosys now as we look at the future of Infosys and do the right things for the future. But I think what I've learned in all this is that it's really up to our imagination and aspirations. That's all it is. Anything is possible if we really put our minds to it, and I think all the distinguished co-awardees have shown that in their respective areas, and I feel humbled to be in this presence. So once again, thank you very much, and it's a great honor. Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you, Mr. Nilekani.